Okay, so in this module, we'll talk about the argument essay. We'll discuss a little bit about the definition of argument and what it means to compose an argument essay. We'll also talk a little bit about planning the essay and developing and revising academic arguments in your essays. So before we start talking about the essay itself, we have to get an understanding of the elements of an argument. Now, as you build your argument essay, there are several elements that will need to be in place. One is called the rhetorical situation. Now, the rhetorical situation is basically the backstory, the reason why you are bringing your position or your proposition, your thesis statement, into the essay. The position itself would be the argument that you're having. The claims would be the evidence, the supports, those topic sentences, the reasons why you want to persuade someone, however you want to do that. For instance, say you're a senior, you want to go to the prom. You know that your parents will not allow you to go to the prom and to the after party unless there are certain things in place, right? So, you as the teenager, you go to your parents and you try to build your rhetorical situation. You're giving them a story, a context for them to put themselves inside so that they can see your way of thinking. For instance, go to your parents and you say, "Mom, Dad, I'm a senior. This is my last year of high school. I've never been to prom before. This one is supposed to be really special because they're doing a 1940s theme, and you know how much I love 1940s. There will be adult supervision there. It's going to be at the high school auditorium." That's the rhetorical situation. Building the scene, building the story. And then you would say, "So, I really think you should allow me to go to the prom." That last sentence, "let me go to the prom," that's the thesis. That's the position that the kid is taking and asking the parents. Now, the claims are those, it will be your proof. You're answering the why question that the parents will have, right? So you could say, "Mom, Dad, the adults that are going to be there, they're the people from the neighborhood. You know them." And you can give some examples by naming some of the people. You've known Mrs. Jordan for 3 years. You know she's a really good person. She's one of the chaperones, right? Another claim or another piece of evidence that you could give is, "It'll be over by midnight. I can be home by 1 o'clock," right? So you see where this is going. The rhetorical situation builds up the introduction to the topic or the introduction to the position that you want to take. The position is your thesis statement, and then those supports, the reasons why people should agree with you, would be the claims. Now, in order to make this an academic argument, you would need to have some other sources, some outside sources. And these are normally scholarly sources. They could be newspapers, certain magazines, journals, some source that's going to build the credibility for your argument. And then you have to think about the opposition. What will the other side say? You'll need to include their arguments, being as fair-minded as you can be, and then you'll need to respond to the opposition arguments, okay? So let's look at the general structure again. So we've got the introduction of the problem, which will lead to the thesis statement, right? That states your opinion concerning this problem. So let's look at a sample rhetorical situation. So let's imagine there's someone who is asking for a change in their work schedule. This is this person's rhetorical situation, building up to the thesis statement. Debunco Incorporated takes pride in its policy that good workers are valued. I consider myself a good worker. I've been here for 7 years without ever calling in sick or using more than half of my vacation time. My performance reviews show a proven track record of my meeting and exceeding company expectations. I would like to maintain that successful record, but I cannot continue to work 80 hours per week. Therefore, I'm asking that you allow me to work a flexible schedule. Now, the section that we see here from debunco to I cannot continue to work 80 hours per week, this entire section, that would be the rhetorical situation. You're providing a context for your audience so that they understand where you're going and what you want them to focus on, all right? And then this bottom statement, therefore, I'm asking that you allow me to work a flexible schedule. This would be the proposition, the position statement, or your thesis statement. So let's go back. Yes, we've messed this up. Okay, so we've looked at the rhetorical situation. Then what you'll do, either in the rhetorical situation or as part of your argument, would talk about other instances, build up the significance of the problem. What's the impact? Think of those things in your argument that will be very important for the audience to know. What things will you need to convince them of, right? So give them some instances. Usually you can do this as part of the rhetorical situation. Give the history of the problem as part of the rhetorical situation. Talk about how bad the impacts can be if we don't consider your proposition. You can do that as part of the rhetorical situation. You also want to talk about the extent of the issue. Who is affected? How bad will it be? And sources are good things to use here. Statistics, testimony from experts, anything here that you can use that will show them the significance. And then, of course, you need to explain why your way of thinking is important, why this particular issue, this position that you are taking concerning this issue is important, and why. This is another good area for sources. Once you do all of these things, you should lead up to a conclusion that firmly states a sound argument. You want to pull all of these things together. The history of the problem, examples of the problem, who's affected, your way of thinking. Pull all of that together and connect your argument with those facts. Anticipate the objections, because that's the opposing arguments, and then you need to make accommodations. Sometimes you can give in to some of the arguments of your opposition, but you'll need to refute as many of them as you can in order to advocate your position. And then for your conclusion, it would be a restatement of the thesis, not word for word though. It's a restatement of the problem and a summary of your ideas. And you would also give a call to action. You want people to do something, agree with you,